just wanted to check out that between the Vedantic philosophy
Yes.
and the philosophy on the other side of the hill,
Yes.
what are the key tenets and what are the key differences?
You know, first of all, I have not studied this Buddhism as deeply as I have studied Vedanta, because our life will go on. But because there all the text and philosophy and all that are so very deep, unless we study all that. But one thing is, this thought of what is the Buddhism, all these thoughts are there in the Vedas. That is very definite. Very variety of schools of thoughts are there. Even rank materialism. From there onwards, all thoughts, they all are there in the Vedas. So the source is that only. Then what happens? Different people have emphasized on different aspects of things. And they have developed what you call the system. But I'll tell you something interesting. If you look at the life of all the founders of religion, or those who are expounders, exponents of religion, or any, they all were meditators. Isn't it? They meditated, they realized. At that time, was there any Buddhism as such? There was no such tenets, there was nothing like that. Then those devotees, disciples, when they start coming, all of them are not of that high level of, purity and all that. So they really can't grasp it. So then always what happens is, the teacher has to communicate that now in a little coming down to their level. Many times the devotees say, you should come to our level. But they don't rise to that level, that's the problem. So then, slowly, that principle and all that, not understood, then only instead of meditation, only prayers begin. Then the temple begins. Then there are so many customs, traditions. Then what happens? The interpretations. There is a very interesting statement in Sanskrit language that a sentence never feels any burden of any amount of interpretation you give to that. If there is a man on his head, if you put load, that man says, enough now, I cannot carry any more load. A sentence carries any amount of load, load of interpretation. So there are so many different schools of thought they start coming. Now, for example, only they say any question about transcendental reality was asked to Gautam Buddha. He never said anything. No silence. So silence can be interpreted also many ways. Someone says he did not speak, that means he did not believe in it. Or somebody says he was silent because that is indescribable. So now how many ways you interpret? And again, historically also, so many rituals were there at that time in Vedic, the sacrifices and all that. So that was also against that. So therefore more emphasis was given on ahimsa, ityadi. But what my point is, these thoughts have originated only from the Vedas. Then his own disposition what was, and then how many denominations are there even in Buddhism? They say Mahayana, Hinayana, they say. But the schools of thought, if you see, Madhyamika and Yogachara, Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, I only know the names, but I don't know what are the details of them. So about one and same thing, the way they look at it. So, in Buddhism, they have not accepted any God as omniscient, omnipotent Lord or God, they have not accepted. Whereas our Vedic religion, the Ishvara is there. So, if you see this so many differences like that, but as far as spiritual evolution is concerned, there are beautiful sadhanas are there, and more emphasis there that you evolve. So first is it is from only Vedas. The ahimsa aspect is emphasized there. And bhikshu dharma, everybody has to become a bhikkhu. That everybody cannot become a renunciate actually. That's why so many other kind of things also happen. But it is meant for spiritual growth. In every religion actually, there is spiritual growth. But as I said, all were great meditators. But all people can't become meditators. They are agitators only. Agitation all the time. That's what today's topic I was on. Until unless that, yoga is overcome, everybody can't become that. So then compromise starts happening. You call it compromise, or you say you come down to different levels. Then again they interpret it in their own way. Such thing happens. But if someone is really devoted to that one system, follows it properly, then that person will definitely be benefited. No doubt about it. But then other it's a matter of deep study of both. What are the similarities, what are some differences and all that. Because among the different schools of thought of Buddhism itself there are so many differences are there.
So let us keep Buddhism aside for a minute.
Yes.
And let us focus on the Vedantic philosophy.
Yes. Yeah.
What would be the grand purpose of life, and how does one go in that direction while contacting the world?
Right. You see, we start in this way. What is that which differentiates man, human being, from other beings? Plant and trees, animals, birds and all that. What distinguishes, what are the factors which distinguishes man? That's what to think. So we find they have got body, we have got body. All the animals and all of them. They have got the senses, we also have got senses. They have got a mind which is necessary for them. Intellect also whatever for their own purpose. But not an inquiring one. But here human being is blessed with the faculty of thinking. So therefore he enjoys a lot of freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of desire, freedom of action, everything is there. The basic thing is, it is the faculty of thinking, reasoning. So what is the purpose and function of the intellect? That only can be the purpose of human life. Simple thing. Right? And if you see, our intellect always asks questions, inquiries. And our Guru used to say, cause hunting is the very the nature of our intellect. What is this? Why this? How this? That means what? Whatever we see, experience, we don't accept it on face value. Now science also. You go to science also. So what Vedanta's position is, this human being is blessed with this. Its function is to find the truth. Therefore, according to Vedanta, the purpose of human life is to inquire and find out the absolute truth. Not only just live at the sensory perception. Now science also comes whatever we are experiencing only relative reality. So what is say in the language of the Vedanta, he said, Jivasya Tattva Jidnyasa. The purpose of human life is to inquire into the nature of absolute truth. Number one. And of course, there is a proper means of knowledge, a teacher, and that absolute truth cannot be divided into many, many things. That is one alone without a second. No form or name can be given to that. Because the moment you say only think of a form, it becomes specific thing. Some people will like it, some people will not like it. So the absolute truth is free from all these notions. But that itself can appear in many forms. So the Vedanta system, in short only, the purpose of human life is to inquire and discover the absolute truth behind the whole world. Itself is free from all forms, but it alone appears in all. Therefore, there is your oneness with the whole being, all beings. Because how can you separate yourself from the world? You just think. The world is of space, air, fire, water, earth. 5 elements. Our body also is made up of that. Everything is made up of that. So we are actually one with the universe. We have isolated ourselves. Therefore, Vedanta's vision is realization of your oneness with all. That is one. Then you ask how to live in this world and all. About that, the vision of Vedanta is look at your life as a whole and live a whole life. What we are doing is only looking at our life very partially. Very partial. You ask, what do you want to do? I want to do this, earning money. Only one aspect only of life. Somebody is interested in arts or commerce, science, sports. The sport is life. Sport alone cannot be life. It can be one part of life. Money also is required, but money alone cannot be life. So Vedanta's vision is look at your life as a whole and live a whole life. In the same way, look at the whole world also in its totality, not without prejudices only. That's what the Vedanta says.
So what would that whole life be? What would that whole life be?
Whole life means you have to understand your own body, your mind, your intellect, your spiritual thing. Your life is life of action. The attitudes, when the results come, how to live. You have to live with things, beings, experiences. That's called totality. So we have how to live with your material things, how to live with living beings, how to live with all our experiences, up and down. That's why. Everything is there in Gita.